Welcome back to No Joke Survival.
Preparations for the average family.
I'm Jason Hill.
And I'm James Blackburn.
And today's episode, we're discussing natural disasters.
And man-made disasters too, a little bit.
A few, and ways that you can prepare for them. And one of the neat things is there's a program called CERT, and it's a community type thing where people help each other out in a natural disaster or crisis.
Yeah. Very cool. I'm so glad I'm getting educated on it too, because they offer a variety of things that you can learn from them, and I'm definitely going to be signing up for that and getting some more knowledge, because even though I'm helping host a show like this, there's still a lot to learn.
We're always learning.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and bring out our guest, and we'll see what he has to say.
Danny!
I'm not the guest, but I do have Pat. Pat, come on in. This is Pat Salerno. I'm sorry, I totally butchered that.
That's fine.
My tongue went faster than my mouth did. Could you pronounce your last name?
I'm Pat Salerno, and I'm with the Rio Rancho CERT organization.
Well, nice to meet you.
Same
Thanks
here.
a lot for coming on and being part of the show.
Happy to be here.
And can you tell us a little bit about what CERT is?
So CERT is a program that got kicked off back in 1985 by the Los Angeles County Fire Department. And they recognized the need to have citizens be able to take care of themselves and to possibly render aid to others in the community in the case of a natural disaster, because they know that their resources are going to be stretched way too thin, and they're not going to be able to help anybody except those that are in critical need, especially for the first 72 hours.
Yeah, we saw that in I think Hurricane Katrina was a good example of resources being really spread thin, and a lot more people needing help. So
Right.
that's
Exactly.
awesome.
Exactly.
So there's different ways that we can start to be prepared. So what are some things around the home that someone might take into consideration for a natural disaster?
Okay, well, first of all, for things around the home, the easiest thing to do to avoid extra damage, if you will, is to mitigate some conditions, right? A lot of people keep their gas cans, for example, in their garage. It's not the best place to keep it. It really should be kept outdoors, okay? Minimize the amount of toxics that you store. Under the sink is a perfect example, right?
Oh yeah, I'm
it's
guilty.
kind of just a love canal sitting under
I'm
there.
a clean freak,
right?
so I have a whole bunch of stuff crammed
So
under there.
those are some of the things you can do to mitigate, all right? Then you can prepare yourself, and that's one of the things the CERT program does, is it teaches people how to be able to take care of themselves and how to be able to take care of their neighbors. So we cover some topics such as fighting small fires in the home, first aid, some search and rescue techniques that they can use that should they have a need to help their neighbors, okay? And then we actually have a module on CERT organization. So if there are many CERT members there, they know how to effectively organize those people and put those people to use effectively.
So
Okay.
some things
Nice.
around the house might be like a fire extinguisher, checking your smoke alarms, and maybe having a CO2 alarm as well, and making sure the batteries, doing like a schedule and testing those, that
Right.
type of thing, right?
So again,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, the fire extinguishers, make sure you have one. Make sure that it's properly charged, know where it's at. One good thing is don't keep it over the stove in the kitchen, because that's where you're going to need it. All right, and that's not a good place to have to reach for it. You can keep it in the kitchen, but keep it away from the stove area. All right, smoke detectors, make sure that you have them in the home, make sure that they're tested. We recommend that when you set your clocks ahead or set your clocks back, that you go ahead and you change the batteries in your smoke detector. So you make sure that there's always fresh batteries in the smoke detector. Okay,
Nice.
so those kinds of things.
Now, on a previous episode, we talked about having a bug-out bag, or some sort of bag that if you had to leave your home in an instant, it's got some really good products in there that's going to help keep you fed, clothed, warm, things like that. CERT also has a bag, and maybe you could just tell me quickly, what are some of the items that you guys have?
So this is one of the kits that we actually issue to folks who complete the CERT class, and it has a few things, mostly to protect yourself. It has some personal protective equipment. It has a helmet in here, everything.
Falling debris.
Right,
Right,
that's
so you
nice. I like
protect
that a
yourself from
lot.
falling debris. We have in here gloves. I guess I shouldn't drag it all up, but we have gloves in here. We have goggles. We have N95 masks to protect yourself from dust and everything.
Which is
And-
really important,
which is
especially
important.
like after an earthquake or something. There's a lot of dust in the air, and that can actually be very harmful.
Right, and there's a small first aid kit in here. Okay, and we actually have a multi-purpose tool in here also. And the multi-purpose tool has a gas shut-off on it, a water shut-off. So you can use that to shut off utilities should you have a gas leak or should there be a water leak. Okay, so of course, with electricity, you can just go to the panel box and shut the breakers off in the panel box.
Right. Well, here's some other ways to protect your friends and family. You can use Jedi mind powers.
Jedi
Yes.
mind?
Yes, these are not the preppers you're looking for. Does that work? Will that work at all?
You know what? I want to learn that technique because that could be really useful.
It's all in the hand. So there you go. So
I don't think I've mastered that one.
But having some protection, around the home is always a good idea. Just because there will be people looking for stuff that they don't have after a natural disaster or crisis. Unfortunately, there is a negative part to anything that happens, and you want to still be prepared for that as well.
Yes. So again, you mentioned the Go Kit, but again, we want to mention a 72-hour survival kit. Right? We want to make sure that people have those and they have proper supplies in there for the number of folks in their home. And the first thing you should grab in case of an emergency or disaster is grab your 72-hour survival kit. And that's probably the thing you're going to need the most to take care of yourself and your family.
Yeah, and we didn't mention it in other episodes, but I wanted to, and that's pets. Some
Yeah.
people's pets are like their
Absolutely.
children. And so you have to think for them just like you would for a child. If that dog needs food or water, any pet, but I'll use dog, having a bag for them is really
like a
important.
bug out bag for your pet as well. in a
Well,
way.
and they even make these cool backpacks, so you could actually have some stuff ready, and you could just clip it on your dog.
Nice.
Absolutely.
And the other important thing is that if you do have to leave and you can't take your pets, is to not leave them in a locked up home. They're better fending for themselves. So release them. As sad as it may be, you have a better chance of recovering them later.
Right.
Because they're going to naturally try to find a safe place
Sure.
to be.
Yeah, and instinct is still strong in
That's
even a tame animal. Now, what about having backups or alternative forms of communication?
So you should have a battery operated radio in your kit. If you happen to have a family service radio, that's a real good idea to have in there also, because you can pretty much count on the fact that cell phone towers, normal phone communication, and everything, all of that will be down. An example, did you ever try and call Mom on Mother's Day? You can't get through under normal conditions. You certainly won't get through under a disaster.
Right.
That's why I always send flowers. Well, hey, it's time for our beginner's box.
Beginner's box.
Beginner's box.
Woo!
I hear beginner's box.
Here she comes.
Yay!
Danny,
I'll never
beginner's
get
box. Beginner's box.
Beginner's box. I'll never get a theme song. Well, as far as ways to prepare, I mean, there's just a number of things you can have. So the box itself is pretty sparse, but just different ways to prepare yourself. So we have some CERT
that's-
promo
yeah.
here.
Promos? That's good
So, but
Nice.
you can. Thanks, I don't wear ball caps, but for anyone who would.
Yeah, you pulled it
But,
off.
thank you. And we also have this just to reinforce the idea, as we have mentioned in earlier episodes, that you want to have a notebook with all of your contact information, basically kind of like a contact tree where you know who you contact and they know who they contact, to make sure that you're safe, that everyone's within communication within your family and your circle of friends, and you know where this is.
Phone
Don't-
numbers, addresses.
Exactly.
You could also put in resources, addresses
Absolutely.
of other resources that you might need in a survival situation.
Exactly. And we also have just some promotion here as far as just, us here with No Joke Survival. You can find out more about any kind of questions you have. Just shoot us any kind of email or Facebook posts, whatnot, and we'll be here for you. And so,
Yeah, and I want to mention that this is just a starting point. The whole idea of this show is just to give people a taste, get them started with prepping and survival, get them thinking, doing some research and educating themselves, because we don't know it all. I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly researching. One of the reasons we bring in experts is because they know more than us, and I have no problem admitting it. It's something I'm constantly striving for.
Well, and especially if you grow up like I did and you move around a lot, you need to know what's in your area. And so, speaking of thinking and knowledge, there's one more thing. Let me get it real quick that you have to have.
What's this?
so-
What is it? I
could
don't
it
know.
Oh,
We have no clue.
it is your
Whoa.
brain. You just need
Nice.
to, use your head. And when in doubt, ask.
Ask
As
questions.
we've just mentioned. And this smells divine. Not
Yes.
just.
But this is your number one tool in a survival situation is well, not necessarily this brain, but the one that's in your
Not
head.
this jello that's right here in front of us, is figuratively speaking. But, you want to take those steps beforehand to prepare yourself, have that 72-hour bag, and you just want to make sure that you know the situation even when you don't know the situation. I mean, you don't know a tornado is going to hit, but once it does or whatnot, you want to at least feel confident enough to survive through
Yep.
it. So.
I have one quick question too for our viewing audience. Can you tell them what CERT stands for?
Yeah, that stands for Community Emergency Response Team. All right,
Uh-huh.
and you'll find these in communities throughout the United States. All right, some very large cities have some very large teams, and then the smaller cities have smaller ones. But
Okay.
Nice.
And the idea is not just taking care of yourself, but taking care of the other people in your community,
Yeah.
which is another big point. So.
Yep, friends and family. So come back after the break because we're going to do an awesome contest with some special guests. And if you've been watching the show, you'll recognize these folks as our family from our footage. So,
Texturally.
all right,
this
here
is
we go.
actually
They're digging into the
surprising.
brains. So these
It
are the best
smells
brains.
so
This
good.
really is the best survival tool.
It is. I love brains.
It's watermelon.
Brains will keep you alive for at least a day or